Greetings, Rob Harrell with another talk from the chair. I'm working on a little puzzle, just started working on one, and I'll let you see what it looks like. I haven't got very far. Looks like a mess, doesn't it? It's an assortment of colors, yellows, golds, browns, blues, light blues, and I'm just beginning to frame it. I like to try to put some kind of frame around it when I start, because that gives me something to work with, a framework, right? Some kind of cohesive order begins to develop as I put the outline together, and then I can build on that outline. You know what that's like if you've worked on puzzles. This one happens to be a scene of a little boy sitting on a dock near a boat on a pond, and there is a beautiful array of colors, autumn colors, that will hang from the trees over the pond. It's beautiful, and I like it. I like the autumn colors. But it's a challenge putting it together. You know, when I look at these pieces strayed and strewn all over the table here, it reminds me of how sometimes we just can't seem to put pieces together. When we face the things that we face, when we try to make sense of this world and all of its insanity and mayhem, we can't put the pieces together. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, the 3rd chapter and the 11th verse, where it says that God has made everything beautiful in its time, and he's put eternity into man's mind, and yet he cannot figure out what God is doing from the beginning to the end. He cannot grasp in his own limitation that which God Almighty is doing. You see, I have the advantage again of looking at the box cover, and I could tell you what this scene is ultimately to be about. If I didn't know that, if I didn't have that box cover, somebody just gave me a bag of pieces, even though they were all there, I wouldn't have any idea until it began to finally come together and I could see it. In this lifetime, it never fully comes together. It never fully shows itself for what it is. We cannot understand what God is doing from the beginning of human history to the end. We have theologies and we have schemes, and great men with great minds have tried to come up with some kind of comprehensive understanding. And some of those understandings are better than others. Histories, theologies, schematics, and frameworks. They try to put it together and say, this is what God is doing. They look at books, for example, like Ephesians in the New Testament, in the 1st chapter, and Paul begins to paint this picture or put together this picture for us. And we look at books like Revelation at the end of the Bible, and we say, well, this is where it's all headed. Or we look back into the prophetic works in the Old Testament like Daniel and Ezekiel and other places, Isaiah, and we say, well, this is where it begins. This is what God is launching out. This is what the framework and the inner workings are going to be like. But no man can comprehend these things. No person can grasp the full scheme of things. Look at your own life. Do you know what it's going to look like at the end? You understand what God is doing? All things work together. In all things, God is working together for the good to make you, if you are a Christian and you've given your life to Christ, he's shaping you into the image of his Son. We know that. How he's doing that and how that is actually going to happen and look what it's going to look like exactly, that's another matter. So what do we do with this mystery? We have some kind of sense of where it's going. We don't have the box cover picture. That's true. And we can gather together certain verses that give us insight and that can enlighten us as to what's going on. But what do we do when we can't get the complete picture and when things happen and it seems to just not fit at all together. You know, there's times when I work on puzzles, I just absolutely come to a stopping point. I can't seem to find it. Even right now, I'm just trying to complete the frame, and I haven't been able to do that so well so far. I stop. Sometimes I just stop altogether, and I come back to it another day. Or sometimes I pause, and that's what we have to do. But what we do in terms of our own Christian life and experiences, we have to stop, and we have to remember that God has his program and his picture in mind, and we have to trust him. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, says the Bible, and he will make your path straight. He will put it together. If we would but trust him and work in tandem with him and allow him through various means to put the glorious picture together and to make you who he wants you to be, which is like his son Jesus. Maybe there's some words there for you today. Blessings.